Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Maconi Entertainment, and welcome back to the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series. This is race number 30 of this season, coming to you today from Las Vegas. My name is Ron Mullins. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Ewan O'Leary. Howie Burrows is our producer for tonight's broadcast. Well, Ewan, to get the round of 8 up and rolling here in the FLCC world, we head off to Las Vegas, the only normal track from this round of 8. This is truly going to be the last bastion of sanity here from this season.
Yeah, I think it's a very good way to put it, Ron. Very excited to be back, by the way. Thanks very much for the intro. It's, the last normal circuit. Good way to describe it. 2 short tracks in the last 2 weeks. Most notably, I guess, Martinsville, which will decide the final 4. But also next week at Talladega is going to be very, very exciting as well. Just a bit of unpredictability before that final round in this crucial round of 8.
Yeah, this is a crucial round, and here's how it's set up entering the first round of this round of the playoffs. We've got Bryson Hixenball, Adam Benefield, Charles Velasquez Jr., and Joseph McWhorter, the 4 drivers above that playoff cutoff line right now. McWhorter really dodged a bullet, just barely squeaking his way into this round of the playoffs with an all-right result. It wasn't the greatest of races, wasn't the greatest of rounds for that matter, but he made it through virtually by the skin of his teeth, and he holds onto a rather good cushion as it stands currently. Bryson Hixenball, Adam Benefield, the only multi-time winners in the regular season, with the exception of Charles Velasquez Jr. That is really big points cushions for the two of them. Then you look at the drivers behind. Eric Wineland, who really showed some pace during the first round of the playoffs, including a win to punch his ticket into the round of 8. Currently slotted the first driver outside of the playoffs, 4 points below the cutoff line. Lucas Hoytsma slotted in P6, your winner at Talladega. He's got to be a driver that we keep an eye out for next week. Hunter Truex slotted in P7, and our Maconi Entertainment colleague Kirk Mills rounding out your playoff field as it stands, heading off into this round of the championship. It was a rather hectic round of 8, 3 very different racetracks, 3 very different races, and we rounded it all off with a win for Adam Benefield, a win that he was not expecting at the Roval 1 week ago. It was a rather topsy-turvy race with a lot of twists and turns, and not just the ones out there on the racetrack, but we have got ourselves a fantastic round of 8 to talk about, to set ourselves up well for the end of the season to see who can get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always an exciting point in the season, isn't it, when you get to these playoffs and you start to decide that final 4. It'd be easy to think at this stage that it would be between Bryson Hixenball and Adam Benefield if it was a normal season and it was just total points, but we've got 8 still in the game. You'd imagine that Hixenball and Benefield are going to be 2 of the 4, but it's very much up in the air as to who the other 2 are going to be. Hopefully they're all here tonight. Haven't gone through and checked everybody yet, but hopefully they're all here tonight, and they are indeed for all 3 rounds, so that they can fight it out properly, because it's very close. Velasquez 6 points above the cut line from 3rd. Kirk Mills furthest away, only 11 behind. That's going to feel like nothing after 3 races.
Yeah, really. The round of 8 I always find to be the most intriguing one in the NASCAR playoffs, because you've got some top-rated drivers trying to fight for any single point that they can get. These next 3 races going to be very tense for all of these racers, trying to see who can punch their ticket in. One driver that I'm certainly keeping my tabs on here in this round is going to be Charles Velasquez Jr. After winning a race very early on in the season, it was actually round number 4 that he got his first win. It took him all the way until the playoff, the regular season finale, I should say, at Gateway, when he was able to get win number 2 and follow that up at Kansas a couple of weeks later with his 3rd win. It's only been a 3-win season for him, but the past 2 of those wins have come in the past 4 races, and that first win all the way back early on this season for round number 4, that was at Phoenix. So if Charles Velasquez Jr. can have a good round here, either just get in on points because he still has that slight cushion back, but if he can punch his ticket in with a win, he may be a force to be reckoned with come time for that Phoenix race in the not too far off future. But let's take a look at the starting grid for tonight's race here at Las Vegas. It's going to be Tommy Gossett starting this race from the pole position. Bryson Hixenball joins him on the front row. It's going to be Bryce Reiner and Adam Benefield comprising row number 2. Matt White and Brandon Hastings starting in 5th and 6th. Rounding out your 4th row will be Hunter Truex and Blake Kluot, with Raymond Root and Joseph McWhorter completing your top 5, Ewan.
Yeah, it's going to be Joey Beck and Noah Woods on row 6. They're 11th and 12th. A bit further down for Nick Stone and Kirk Mills, of course, 8th coming into these standings. Starts from 14th tonight. Wineland, who starts 5th in the points. He will be 15th ahead of another playoff driver, Lucas Hoitzma. He starts 6th in the points from 16th. Edward Scherer Jr. and Mason Lowry then are on row 9 with Connor Cunningham and Michael Diach rounding out the top 20.
Then looking right behind him, we got Matthew Boston, Will Air, and Jeremy Clapper Newell completing a 3-name row number 11 with Dave Hoitzman and Charles Ian right behind on row number 12. P25 will be Alex Princeton. P26 will be Tim Phillips. Getting into the drivers that didn't set qualifying times, Richard Kleinman will start this race in P27. Jason S. Taylor is your race control man, so we won't have to worry about him. Daniel Llewellyn will start this race in 29th. Alongside him will be Steve Benjamin in the number 34 car. Interesting bit of drama as we see Rory Collins running at your 31 car grid. Our pole sitter here in this race of Tommy Gossett going to be starting from the pit lane.
Very strange. Very strange. I wonder whether that is just might as well, because I qualified on pole and I can have a lot of fun coming back through the field, but not entirely sure what's gone on there at the moment.
As we take a look at the race format here for tonight's race, 201 laps of racing action here tonight at Las Vegas. Stage breaks going to come on lap number 45 and lap 90 at the end of those laps respectively. 5 tire sets allotted to these racers, the ones they start with, and 4 changes, and 13x as the incident limit. If it were 3, I don't think we would have a single driver running come time for the end of this race here. Going to be a tough one, going to be a feisty one to get these playoffs up and rolling, as much as Las Vegas may be seen as the source of calmness here in the round of 8. This may be a rather hectic race, maybe a sleeper pick for a chaotic one from this season, as it's going to be 2 drivers that we've seen a decent amount of as of recent. Of course, Bryson Ixball leading us to green as the green flag's out. The drivers are on their way, and we are racing and rolling the dice here at Las Vegas. As we already have a spinner a little bit farther in the back. Tommy Gossett joins the race from pit lane, but we got a driver spinning off into the infield right behind.
Straight into the pit wall as well for one of the drivers is Connor Cunningham, who was about in the midfield. Wonder whether there was contact there or whether he managed it on his own, but a dramatic start to these 201 laps.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate start for Cunningham. A very dramatic start to this race, but as we complete lap number 1, usual suspects up towards the front of the field. Adam Benefiel, after the 5th win this season for him last time at the Charlotte Roval, looking to have another good run here and hold on to that playoff cushion. But one driver that I think is trying to have a very good day is Bryson Ixenball. We think about him as a dominant racer from this season with 7 wins and a huge cushion when it comes to the playoffs. But frankly, the round of 8 for him was, the round of 12, I should say, was a rather miserable outing. So I think Bryson Ixenball looking to turn over a new leaf as we get into this latest round of the playoffs.
It's been a good start from Ixenball at the front, but as we were talking about just before we came to air, this race likely to stay very close together for the early laps. Look at that all the way around down the field. Until these tyres really start to fall off, it does look like it's going to be one of those races where they're all in one long line for the moment, or at least in one long group, side by side at the moment for the highest place in the field, for 8 between Clouat and Raymond Root still.
As we see these competitors duke it at downtown into turn number 1 and 2, we have got a fight involving Joseph McWhorter looking to turn over a new leaf as well here in this round of the playoffs after some somewhat disappointing runs during the round of 12. The side-by-side racing still going to go on between Clouat and Raymond Root as they head their way off into 3 and 4. And now Root and Brandon Hastings, that's a 91 and the 81 duking it out, as now look at Noah Woods in the 56 car trying to challenge Clouat on the inside line. He's got to jump his way up in a P9 as it's 4 cars covered by just about nothing downtown to 1 and 2 once again.
And maybe the first signs of a bit of a break in the group, although it's only 0.4 of a second while Root gets to 7th. Hastings going to try and follow through with Noah Woods. They're now side by side actually. They both passed Clouat and are still side by side through 3 and 4 at the end of 5 laps. Other than that bad start for Cunningham, it's been a clean start for everybody else.
really the only driver that we've seen run into difficulties was Cunningham at the start of this race, and what a way for it to take place. It's such a shame to have a sort of incident like that break out right at the start. I think it was stacking up, and now he's going to go into that inside barrier. We remain green as a result of all of it, but let's see as we followed a bit more closely here. Big stacking up a little bit farther behind and trying to take evasive action. Clip the back of the car right in front of him, and not sure what it is about iRacing from time to time as the pace car just driving past as if it's no big deal. A car is spinning off and slamming into the inside pit wall. But one thing about iRacing that can be a little bit odd, weird bits of contact like that, front to back. I'm not sure if the back end of these cars are covered in Crisco or what, but it just spun around like a top right afterwards.
Yeah, it's a little bit bizarre, but we do see that from time to time with any cars really in iRacing, so it is a shame, but it does happen. And Cunningham unfortunately has decided, well, if that's a sign of how my night's going to go, I might as well not participate, and indeed seems to have retired at the big commencement of this race. Unfortunately, the fact he didn't catch a caution either there is pretty unlucky, so he drops out of this race very, very early on. But still 29 drivers tonight, a nice field once again for these first round of the next round of the playoffs, first race in the next round of the playoffs. By the way, first stage, the word I'm looking for, just over 35 laps away now.
Yeah, so already making some good progress into this race. Just to wrap up the point about Connery Cunningham, a very unfortunate moment out there on the racetrack, and very unfortunate that they didn't pick up a yellow, but hey, it is Las Vegas, not the first time someone has gotten struck by a bad luck falling anvil in this town, that is for darn sure. We jump to this battle, 3 cars strong. It's Matt White being tailed by Hunter Truex, is being tailed by Joseph McWhorter. McWhorter in that number 73 car. We've talked about this a lot throughout the show already, and we will continue to race it. I wouldn't necessarily say it was down to luck for him to make it into this round of the playoffs, but was very, very close. It was touch and go as we got to the end of the latest round of the playoffs for him to make it into this current round. But McWhorter, he managed to make it through. He holds on to P5 at the present moment and is hoping that is a consistent night. Throughout this season, we have seen Joseph McWhorter have very exciting races, which having an exciting race from our perspective in the broadcast booth is good. If you're behind the wheel, though, you probably want to have a boring night more than anything.
Yeah, it's much better to have a quiet night and away from our cameras, especially if you're one of these playoff drivers in the opening couple of rounds. If you're at Martinsville, the final round of this part, or indeed at the Roval last week, and you do need to make up some places, you need to make up some points, then it is probably worth having a loud day, just trying to get ahead if you can. But it's very difficult to do that all 3 races and not land yourself in a lot of trouble. So staying quiet is absolutely the way to do it, and that's why I wouldn't be too worried about guys like Kirk Mills and Eric Wineland, who are running sort of midfield at the moment, not really getting anywhere. While he has seen others around him, like Lucas Hoitzma, move nearly into the top 10 off this start, it's not too much of a concern really that Mills is in the midfield, as long as he's staying out of trouble. And indeed for all those drivers in the midfield, as long as you're out of trouble, then it's not too much of a problem so early on.
And we're just staying with it throughout this race. 201 laps is a rather long race to worry about here at Las Vegas. So if you could just stay with it throughout it, be there at the very end, you could do yourself a heck of a lot of favors. Now side-by-side racing with McWhorter and Truex right behind. McWhorter jumps his way up into P4 and creates a bit of a gap between himself and the back end. The number 48 car of Matthew White slotted in P3. Bryson Ixenball still continues to lead this race, though, in the early stages. That number 63 car has won at a wide variety of racetracks. Well, if we look a little bit earlier on in this season, in right as I say that, Bryce Ryder gets that move done. Ixenball having a bad run off through turn number 1 and 2. Matt White going to get that move done as well. Right as I was looking at my stat sheet like a Taurus, Ixenball drops down.
And we have seen this time to time over the course of this season. He's not set out and led every single lap of every race, despite the fact he has really had a great season and won a lot of races over the course of 2025. He's not led every lap by any means, and he's quite happy to not lead laps actually and just sit in here with still 30 laps to go until the stage. We're only a third of the way through. I think he's pleased to just sit there he'll let White and Reiner battle it out, burn their tyres out, and he might well try and pass them again later. But White goes around the outside through 3 and 4, and now he takes the lead.
So the game of leapfrog now going on right at the front. I was just going to say that Bryson Ixenball is probably feeling good about his chances, considering he won the spring race here at Las Vegas well earlier on in the championship for win number 2. Once again, win number 8 here, but he's now on the back foot, slotted in 3rd. You know how I said there's a gap that built up between the top 3 and 4 and 5 in the form of Joseph McWhorter and Hunter Truex? Well, that gap has now completely disappeared in all that side-by-side racing. Matt White now holding on to the race lead. Bryce Reiner slotted in P2. Bryson Ixenball rounds at your podium in 3rd. You look a little bit farther behind the likes of McWhorter and Truex. And it's Adam Benefiel slotted in P6. Can never discount Benefiel, even at the Charlotte Roval, where he was like, you know what, I don't really feel like I'm good at road courses, was still able to get the W there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just shows you everything you need to know, doesn't it? If you're not going to have a very good, you're not going to win a race, then at least finish well. And that's exactly what you see at the Roval for some drivers. They just don't particularly enjoy the road courses, and that makes it very difficult. But have a clean day and you'll be fine by the end of the round of playoffs, which is now complete. No more road courses this season in this championship. One previous to that, of course, was back in early August, so fairly long time between road course races, thankfully for Benefiel on that occasion. They are now highlighted, by the way, on the left-hand side of your screen, the playoff drivers, 4 of them in the top 6 at the moment, and that does indeed confirm we are missing one tonight. Charles Velasquez Jr. not here tonight. He will drop to the back of the standings as a result.
Oh, and that is a big moment for him. Not sure why Charles Velasquez Jr. is absent here. Was not made aware of that with any sort of announcement from him, but that is going to be huge. Right as I was talking about him being a real force to be reckoned with if he makes it into the championship 4, that's going to be a very tough road ahead as we look into the races that follow. And you can see the drivers marked off with the whites, and none of them are your front 2 runners. Matt White and Bryce Reiner, non-playoff racers. They're just running out here trying to collect some trophies. Those trophy hunters, whether it be drivers who have been running full-time this season or drivers who have just only now joined the series, in the case of Blake Kluat slotted a little bit farther behind him, P12 in that number 4 car, those trophy hunters got to be a big thorn in the sides of these playoff competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always the debate, isn't it, at this stage in the season, just how involved do you get? And I'm sure it's a debate that the non-playoff drivers do have amongst themselves as well, or at least in their own heads. How involved do we get here? How hard do we race them for the race win? We'll see later on whether that really becomes a thing, whether it's a non-playoff driver versus one of the 7 here tonight racing for the win. Just how physical is it going to get between those groups at that stage? We'd yet to find out, of course, and we will a little bit later on. But it's always an interesting part at this point in the season, just what they decide to. Generally, I think the best idea is to just race as you would normally, and that alleviates any major problems anyway.
Yeah, just basically a case of proceed as normal. You'll be fine. That's basically like a fire drill that you've got here. Just drive around, run good. I remember back in my karting days, whenever there'd be some sort of like weird sort of situation, as Adam Benefiel just in front, jumping in front of Bryson Ixenball there with a pre-commanding move down to turn number 3. But back in my karting days, whenever there would be something where I'm like, I'm not sure what sort of time that I need to hit here with some occasionally complex sort of timing system that we used to have, combining runs and doing all that stuff, I used to just say, you know what, I'm just going to go out there, drive as quickly as I can, and that's really all that matters to me. As we saw that side-by-side racing with Benefiel and Ixenball, though, this side-by-side racing going to start to flare up a little bit farther behind. It's Raymond Root and Noah Woods battling for some of the final spots inside of the top 10 currently, and they bang wheels as they head their way up through turn number 4, drifting up into the side of the 56 car is going to go Raymond Root, and he's got pulled back in tow. Let him get that position and try and get a little bit of a draft off him as we get closer and closer to the end of the stage.
Yeah, just over halfway now in this first stage. Of course, we will have a caution at that stage, and it will bring it all back together again at the end of that. As Benefiel now goes for second, he's really making places in these last couple of moments. He's gone from, I think it was 5th place at the time, up in 6th. He's now into second. Matt White, though, 3/4 of a second out front. And is Benefield going too early here? Is he going to suffer with tyre wear late on in this first stage, given the fact he's decided to open the taps quite early here?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point that you bring up, Ewan. I could probably best compare it to like a speed skating event, the Winter Olympics, where everybody tries to save up their stuff until a little bit later on. Is Adam Benefield jumping the gun here? Is he going to... It's a classic case of Icarus flying too close to the sun and melting his wax wings. That's what's going to be the case for Adam Benefield. Let's just find out. It's about 3/4 of a second the gap between himself and Matt White at the current moment. With less than 20 to go in the stage, Benefield going to have to try and close up that gap and make sure that nobody else gives him a challenge. But if Benefield can't get done, who is going to be the next? I have a feeling, maybe inevitable from our pole sitter, Tommy Gossett has jumped his way up into 6.
Yeah, absolutely flying at the moment, and it looks almost like Hixenbow wants to avoid him by getting in front of Bryce Rayner at the moment. Maybe that's not his plan, and he was going to make the move anyway, but Joseph McWhorter's getting alongside Hixenbow nevertheless. Johnny Gossett is in here as well in 6th position. He's gone high, 2 as well, going high in front of him, nearly 3 wide coming off of 2. It's getting interesting. Hixenbow's going to be in danger here on the inside, going to get freight trained with the guys slipstreaming on the outside.
And that train of cars really chugging along, trying to leave Hixenbow in the dust as he tries to find any way in the book to hold on to those spots. It's a losing effort, though. Here comes Tommy Gossett with a run. Got to be 4-pack of cars heading down into turn number 1. Gossett going to scrape the wall as he heads his way off through 1 and 2, but the 2x2 pack still going to be tight in formation as they head their way onto the backstretch. Hixenbow going to hold on to that spot for now. Keyword being for now is Tommy Gossett going to first challenge Reiner for P4. He jumps into that spot, and now Gossett's got to look to try and keep that momentum rolling in that number 74 car and turn it into a spot to really be able to jump in front of Hixenbow, the driver that he was meant to start on the front row with. Now they're battling, albeit they're not battling for the race lead like they would have done in the early stages. Now about 30 laps in, Gossett has been able to jump back up to the front. Hixenbow dropped down a little bit. Really, ever since we saw that car of Hixenbow first drop back, we haven't seen him gain that team speed, and really that car hasn't looked the same since. He's now got Gossett on the inside of him, side by side, as they head their way off through turn number 3 and 4, looking at a fight right behind involving the 71 and the 73. It's True and McWhorter battling for P6 currently, but now Tommy Gossett, I think, it's slipped back in tow with Bryce and Hixenbow. Gonna have to rethink when to get that move done.
Yeah, it's such an interesting group at the moment with so many in here. It's starting to crowd up quite a lot. McWhorter was looking even at 3rd place not so long ago. Now Hunter Trull goes right by him into 6th place in 71, so it's not gone particularly well in the last couple of months for McWhorter. Now Raymond Root is coming up to the back of him as well. And this is what can happen here at Vegas. If you do lose a place or two, then it can turn into 3 or 4 or 5, and it gets worse from there. And McWhorter at the moment is feeling that. Raymond Root looks at the inside again, but in fact it's McWhorter on the outside of True. Is he going to get the space on the exit of 2? He is just about. 2 playoff drivers battling for 6th.
Still duking it out currently. Hunter Trull and Joseph McWhorter, 2 very interesting cases from this season, and they've got another challenger on the inside of them. Raymond Root stuck at 3 wide as they headed their way off through 3 and 4. Gutsy stuff from the driver of that number 91 car, trying to find any way in the book to get a move done here. Now, just want to touch on the fact that Hunter Trull and Joseph McWhorter have 1 win between them, McWhorter being the winner in that situation. Grabbed his 1 and only win thus far this season at Pocono way back in the summer. But Hunter Trull hasn't had a bad season either. In fact, he was a rather formidable contender in the Dash for Cash situation a little bit earlier on this season. Was able to win the Dash for Cash races at Talladega and Texas. Now, bearing in mind, that wasn't an actual race when you just finished in front of the other Dash for Cash competitors to gain an extra $100. But Hunter Trull has shown some pace throughout this season. Haven't seen him break through into victory lane just yet. If he can keep up that pace rolling, though, we may see him break out. Let's just see.
Yeah, let's just see. So just under 15 laps from the end of this stage, and Hunter Trull getting freight trained on the outside now by Raymond Root, and here comes Noah Woods on the outside as well. Lucas Hoitzmer coming up too, and that reminds me actually, Dave Hoitzmer and Charles Eaton for some reason are multiple laps down. I think they're back out on the circuit again, but They seem to have had some long times down on pit lane under green flag. Not sure whether they're incident related. In fact, that might be one of them coming out the pit lane right now. So not sure what's gone on down there, but a couple of drivers with some quite long stops. In fact, Hoytsma has retired. That's Charles Eaton getting back out again, 7 laps down.
And I think this may potentially be what happened. We'll follow these replays and figure out exactly what the deal was. This may have been some drama a little bit further up the road as we follow. Actually, yeah, right as that was going on. Drama with the 79 and the 75. That's Dave Hoytsma in the 75 machine up against the fence. And yeah, let's see. Actually, no, my apologies. That's Dave Hoytsma in the 79 car. My apologies there. 75 car, though, ends up in the fence. Small little bit of contact. They both end up on the wall. And I think that's enough to just completely derail their nights, really, before it even got up and rolling.
Oh, dear, yeah. It's just a bit of miscommunication. I mean, it feels to me like Vegas is one of the circuits where it's quite unclear, actually, where the different lines could be. It's not the widest circuit in the world, but there's certainly different lines you can run, and people do seem to be migrating up more towards the top as they're going on, rather than running straight on along the white line, which they were pretty much always round in the early part of the race. But the lack of lines or anything around here does make it a little bit difficult to see what you're doing when you're side by side, and miscommunications can be created, as I think that's what we've got to chalk that one down to, as Bryson Hicksonville tries to get some of those positions back again. It's the final 10 laps of a stage, and he's starting to make moves just as he so often does.
Charging right at the very end, seeing this stage end come closer and closer in these drivers' windshields. Now only about 6 laps away from the end of this first stage here tonight. A reminder, folks, stage break going to come at the end of lap 45, not the start, the end. That's usually how it works here in the FLC. Matt White, your current race leader right now, holds on to 1 second gap to himself and your pole sitter of Tommy Gossett. It's been a tough road for Gossett. I'm not sure why he started down in pit lane, whether or not he missed out on actually taking the start. Maybe got too lost trying to put some race fuel in that car that he completely forgot to take the grid. As we've got a yellow and a driver upside down. That's the number 95 of Joey Beck. And how in the world did that happen?
Well, this replay already starts with him in the grass. Let's see what's gone on here through turn 4. Running the low line, running down along the white line, a little bit loose, and off of 4 he just loses it on the exit. You can see a little bit of damage on the rear. We've just been hearing off air about how that affects your car around here, and you can see it. Oh, there's a visual illustration. Gets absolutely walloped on the tri-oval.
Stein that just center punched him. You can see the smoke already. And survey says, yeah, nothing you can, I mean, with the glare and everything, and especially the shadows from the main grandstands, there's really nothing that he could do there to try and avoid the contact. This is going to be a rather rough ride. I mean, none of the replays that we've seen thus far would make it seem like it was soft like Tempur-Pedic. Bang, there you go, into the side. On his side is the 95 of Beck. He nearly flipped on 2 separate axes at the same time. That is absolute insanity. Unfortunate for Rory Collins, who got tagged in the midst of all that. Has got to take a trip straight into the wall. Actually, no, he kept it out of the wall. That car contact going to give him a meatball flag. It brings out the first yellow of this race in rather spectacular fashion. Oh!
Well, that's the exit of the pit lane. That's the backstretch. I'm not sure why he turned in, why he turned down left like that. I reckon he must have some sort of technical fault here. No? Has he fallen asleep at the wheel? I don't know what's going on there. He's just turned straight into the wall and damaged his car quite badly. Almost got the look of someone whose monitor's turned off.
Potentially. I gotta say, Ewan, and this is honest, I'm sure you can relate to this because I think we've had our fair share of moments like this here in this series. There's a decent amount of times where we're usually just kind of like lost for words. A little bit surprising there, but regardless, I think we have had some pit stops go on. You want to rush through that, Ewan?
I was just thinking either pit now and don't pit after the stage, in the stage, or don't pit now and pit at the stage. So Joseph McWhorter, the best place of the drivers to have pitted. He's been in with Noah Woods, Brandon Hastings, of those who've been in the top 10. A little bit further back for the likes of Richard Kleinman, Steve Benjamin, Jeremy Clapper-Newell, and Michael Diaz also been in. Tim Phillips and Edward Scherer also being in as well. From then on backwards, you're already getting towards drivers who've been quite heavily delayed, and we do have some long stops, as you might imagine, happening further down the field. But the top 13 have all stayed out. McWhorter, the only playoff driver to come in. We'll see how fresh those tyres... Well, we know how fresh the tyres are. How much of an advantage will it be, though, for him to have that for just 4 laps? How many points in the stage is he going to get? I think the strategical benefits are going to come later when he can stay out in this stage break and he can lead the race coming to the restart after the stage.
So fascinating to already see the strategy get brought up here. You know, we think about the strategy content. It's always so important here in this series with the limited tire sets, with everybody, I wouldn't necessarily say going for the same strategy, but you kind of have different marks that you have to aim for when it comes to when to pit, when not to pit. You're not going to be seeing somebody pull off a 3-stop in the final stints, but you always do see these racers begin to experiment with the strategy, which I always love.
Yeah, I always enjoy it as well. There are certain occasions where these stages do allow for a little bit more strategical differences between the drivers, and I'm a big fan of that. So hopefully we're going to see some of that here tonight. Don't forget, the second stage finishes on lap 90, so 2 short opening stages and a very long run to the end.
Yeah, the marathon run to the end of this race is going to be pretty tough, but we've got ourselves a pretty short end to this stage as we're going to begin the race restarted on the 42nd lap of this 201 lap long race in this 45 lap long stage. We're back to green flag racing. Matt White and Tommy Gossett comprised of your front row as they lick the stamp and send it down into turn number 1. We've got 2 non-playoff and non-full-time racers getting challenged by 2 of the best here in this series. Adam Benefield and Bryson Ixenball combined for 12 wins in the first 29 races of this season, and they're now slotted in P3 and P4. Got 4 very different competitors running at the top 4 spots.
And look at the new tyre runners coming here. Joseph McWhorter already into the playoff point, stage point position, excuse me. How far can he go? Look at that, diving to the inside, 3 wide as he comes through on Trull, stuck on the inside, in the middle side. It's Lucas Hoitzmer up high. Look at Joseph McWhorter. Has he got enough time to get this stage win? It looks like he might well do.
Yeah, let's see. We have enough time in this stage after that restart whereby these drivers on the new tires can really make a statement. Will he be able to make enough, though? That is a real question. McWhorter now alongside the 48, alongside the 74, and Joseph McWhorter takes the race lead here with 44 laps already in our rearview mirror and only 2 left to go here from this stage. Now it's the fighting with everybody else. Look at that hornet's nest of race cars as they head their way onto the back straightaway. That's Noah Woods diving down the inside to try and make a 3 wide into turn number 3. That's gutsy stuff. He's on the inside of the 5, who's on the inside of the 63, who is briefly on the inside of the 83. Noah Woods putting in some good drives at the present moment. He's now on the outside of Matt White.
Yeah, and he's going to be finishing this stage second as the final lap of this first stage now commences. McWhorter's going to win this and he's going to back off, I think, in terms of his speed, just to save those tyres a little bit, but still to get the stage win. Woods around the outside is going to finish second. We're going to have 3 non-playoff drivers in the top 4 at the end here.
This is a wild way to end this stage. Joseph McWhorter drove off into the sunset ever since he was able to gun it on those fresh tires, and he's going to pick up a stage win. Brilliant drive from him. Important as well with the playoff points. He's going to finish in front of Noah Woods. We'll run through the rest of the top 10 at the end of this first stage here. Right about now, it's Noah Woods in front of Tommy Gossett, in front of Matt White. Adam Benefield, the second driver of those playoff competitors here in this stage. He's classed down 5th. Bryson Ixenball right behind in 6th. Bryce Reiner, Lucas Hoitzma, Richard Kleinman, and Hunter Trull complete out your top 10 after 45 laps of rather chaotic racing. You know, it was a bit hectic. Then we had that yellow, and all hell broke loose after.
Yeah, absolutely. After that, by the way, Wineland and Hoitzma will be tied on points behind McWhorter, so they'd be the ones splitting the cut-off point but they'd be tied on points as things stand, with Velasquez presumably going to be dropping down. Hunter True will be about 3 points further behind them, and I think Kirk Mills would lose quite a lot actually out of that and drop to somewhere near 20 points off McWhorter, but that would only be about 7 or so away from Wineland and Hoitzma, who he'd be aiming at for the cut-off line. That makes it all the more interesting, but just at one stage, and you can see how things change so quickly. McWhorter going from 4 points above the cut line to 14 above. I think Ron's harming himself. He's
See, okay, I'm gonna say this, and this is honest. I don't have a problem with the Eagles losing. That's fine. I do take issue with the Phils. Aha! What? Oh, that. I was thankfully on the air when they lost the NLDS to the LA Dodgers. I'm thankful, because otherwise I probably would have been crashing out down in my living room seeing that go on. Because that whole team, I love them. I think that's on me. You know, I actually wore a blue shirt last night, so that's maybe the reason why the Dodgers lost. I broke Red October rules. That's exactly what I did. There was some pit stops going on. That's Michael Deach dumping up to the front. Was that Deach just coming in for a drive-through? That looked very, very quick from him. He came out of just absolutely nowhere. I think Deach may have just come. Either he came in for fuel only, or I'm not really sure what the deal was there for Deach.
No, I'm not sure what he did either, but he pitted under the caution before the stage, so I'm not entirely sure where he came in there, because the whole point of coming in before the stage like that is so that you can stay out during that one and get your track position. I mean, look at that now. We've got 6 drivers at the front who have done exactly that. Fair play to McWhorter for doing it as well, but gives a big preview as well, doesn't it, to the end of the race, that little run there, because new tyres are going to be very, very valuable.
And hearing as well from a production truck that car, the number 88 of Michael Deach, came in for fuel and fuel only. Fascinating stuff from Deach to make that call. I mean, it's worked out well for him. We didn't really mention him too much in the first stage. We're going to be talking about him here as we get him racked and stacked for the second stage. Deach going to restart this race in 6th with that fuel-only stop. And based off the logo that he's got on the hood of his car, I hopped his way up into the front. I'll see myself out.
Yep, please do.
Good night, everybody.
You're not stuck with me, by the way, on my own. That would be bad. But yes, it's a real change now. Lots of drivers have put themselves up towards the front now. Front 3 rows are covered by this. But you know, there was only 4 laps of a green flag run there, so I do wonder what the tyre difference is going to be, and indeed what's going to happen now. I know it says 8 of a difference, but that's of course when they pitted. In terms of green flag laps, it's just 4. And that means that, yeah, these tyres will be a little bit older for the front 6, but how noticeable is it going to be? It could be very noticeable, to be honest, given the previous restart, of course, it really was.
Yeah, so when we get into those tyre differences, it is going to, I mean, we saw it at the end of that first stage. I think we're going to see it a little bit here at the start of the second. It is going to be super frenetic. You're going to see cars that you would think that they had nitrous, rocket fuel, a couple of tablespoons of mustard up their rear end. There's going to be a lot of weird things to see here, with drivers dropping down like stones thrown into ponds and others just rocketing their way up to the front. Let's see how the second stage goes here in Las Vegas as we're back to green flag racing. McWhorter with a very good restart. No Woods with not a great one. He's now going to be side by side with Richard Kleinman, 2 non-playoff racers. Really, the entirety of the top 8, at least for a couple of moments, comprised of non-playoff competitors. Michael Deach, the only driver really dropping back. He's now fallen down to P13. It's just a blink of an eye as they crash behind.
Oh my goodness. Oh, and Hunter Troll is one of them. 71 finds the wall hard. One of our playoff drivers down the backstretch. This is the danger of these restarts, and this is the danger of not wanting to be at the front, or indeed being at the front from start to finish. You can get caught up in stuff like this. It's side-to-side contact between the 97 and the 53, and it just starts a chain reaction all the way down the field. Trull tries to stop in time, and he's hit on the back stretches, Trull.
Yeah, I think it actually went down a little bit more than that. You see Adam Benefield on the 83 on the inside, the number 53 of Steve Benjamin. Got a slight bit of contact being made. That's what gets that number 53 car squarely in the first place, runs it to the side of the 97, and around he goes. But that's a bit of drama that we have our attention on. Hunter Trull, after a pretty all right run in the first stage, could have been a little bit better, though. He's now going to be on the back foot hugely. And right at the start of the second, let's follow his perspective of all of it. Smoke right in front. Not too much that he could have done. I think he got hit up the back, unless he just locked up the rears.
No, he definitely got hit. I'm trying to identify who it was, and I can't do it at the moment. But somebody definitely hit him. It has to be 17. Is that 17? Whoever that is, in the white and purple. It's definitely hit him there in towards turn 3. It was not Trull's fault, but he will get a lot of damage from that. It could be a very long repair indeed. And we're just going to look through the field for who it was. Was
Maybe
it?
Eric Wineland?
It was fellow playoff driver Eric Wineland, was it?
Oh, it was.
Wow. 87, not 17, sorry. Yeah. Fellow playoff driver Eric Wineland, wow.
Unfortunately there for draft car 2, because of his car, 2 cars were involved in that incident, hang down the back straightaway. It brings out the 3rd yellow of this race, the 2nd one for incidents. You know how I said right towards the start of this race, I think it was right before we grabbed the green, and despite the fact that this is the normal race, quote unquote, from this round of the playoffs, it can still be a little bit hair-raising, a little bit frenetic. That's Lucas? Is that Lucas Holtzman? I'm trying to figure out who that is with a case of zoomies just weaving back and forth onto the apron. But no, even here at Las Vegas, it can be a little bit hectic, as we have already seen the first 52 laps.
Yeah, I think there is some. No, well, this is not scientific. It's just sort of what I imagine might be happening is that, as you mentioned, it's the only real normal circuit. It's, it's pretty simple around here. Trial, mile and a half. Nothing too special about it. 20 degrees banking in the turns. Nothing too extraordinary. But the other circuits certainly are. Talladega and Martinsville are 2 circuits you are going to want to pay attention at, and indeed not go into them wanting something. So you almost try even harder here at Vegas to make sure that you're not waiting on Martinsville or Talladega for something to go wrong. Indeed, trying to get a bit of look at one of those. You want to take things into your home hands with a good result here, and I feel like that almost makes things a little bit less clean than it otherwise would be, with everybody scrambling for that result. Does that maybe have an effect? I wonder. Maybe it doesn't, but it does feel like this being the only normal circuit, everybody's even more desperate than normal to get a good result.
Yeah, and I think you're right on the nose there, Ewan. It could be a little bit of reverse psychology going on, just the sense of, okay, Martinsville, I mean, if we were talking about the Cup cars, we love the FLCC, but the Cup cars at Martinsville, they aren't what they used to be. The Xfinity cars, though, they're exactly the same now as they were a couple of years ago, and we have seen the Xfinity races at Martinsville be absolute S shows, so to speak. Talladega, of course, that kind of goes without saying. If everybody has to put their eggs into one single basket, somebody's going to come out of this race feeling heartbroken, and everybody's going to try and be the winner of back into the restart zone to get this second stage back up and rolling once again. Again, Joseph McCorder gets off to a flyover restart. Once again, that high side, this time being led by the 58 of Richard Kleinman, really stacking up that high side.
Yeah, and it's going to be 3 wide very soon. This is how accidents happen, and indeed did happen on the first restart. Oh, another bit of contact. That's exactly how it happened first time round. But we get away with that 3 wide moment this time.
They got away with it just barely, but they did get away with it, and now you see the side-by-side racing and 3 wide action continue to go on a little bit farther behind the other drivers running up at the front. Still very close stuff in these battles right towards the tail end of the top 10. Side-by-side with the 56 and the 58. That's a slider a little bit farther behind. Side-by-side up at the front, Brandon Hastings going to jump into the race lead over McCorder. McCorder may have had that tire advantage right towards the end of the first stage. stage, was able to get the good stage points in the process of it as well, but now he's going to start to feel the burn with a capital B.
Yeah, he is, and that's fine for the moment. Just try and stay with the front guys if possible. But of course, with the older tyres, it's always going to be a lot more difficult as they go along. Oh, so close to contact. That was Kleinman not able to hold the low side while Noah Woods was on the high side.
Holy cow, that was some close quarter stuff as they had their way through turn number 1 and 2. It is still close through 3 and 4. These competitors not relenting. They want to try and get any single spot that they can. And speaking of getting a spot, it's a 73 and the 74. It's McWhorter and Gossett now duking it out in the battle. This is currently for the final 2 podium spots. Who is going to be able to reel in Brandon Hastings? Will it be the playoff racer of McWhorter, or will it be your pole man of Tommy Gossett? Side by side down the backstretch, Gossett going to rip the momentum on the high side to jump his way up to P2. He's now got an unobstructed view of the number 81 car, Brendan Hastings, holding on to the race lead. Still, McWhorter now has to look in his rearview mirrors to maybe think how long it'll be before Noah Woods finally catches up to him.
Yeah, I just feel an inevitability about that at the moment. There's a bit of a gap being created by all this tyre stuff going on, but as those newer tyre runners get through, they will start to catch the leaders again. That was super close to the wall as well. This is with Benefiel and Wineland, who are trying to get past Richard Kleineman at the moment, who just seem to be the root cause of a lot of these battles at the moment, as he keeps losing places and very nearly making contact with the guys passing him.
These drivers are playing with fire at the current moment. I think that's the only way that he could sum it up, frankly. These competitors really trying to turn up the wick, get any single spot that they can. The round of 8 with the top drivers in any series in the NASCAR world. Always got to get a little bit squirrely, as that was the squirrely moment downtown. It's a 3 and 4. That's Kirk Mills forcing the issue. Made contact with the 58 of Kleinman, who's now fallen outside the top 10. He's now side by side, and the fight going on right around him. It was between himself and Hoytsma. Then it was himself and the 10 of Edward Scherer Jr. Now he's feeling some pressure from Raymond Rude. Matthew Boston Wheeler going to look to force him back even more. Klein, after getting shown the door, off into 3 and 4, dropping down, not even like an anvil push out of a helicopter, like a sack of lead pushed out of a plane.
Look at that grip, by the way, on the outside as well for Kirk Mills, who's suddenly got some really good speed. First time that's happened tonight, really, for Kirk, but he just needs some stage points because of a lot of his close rivals picked up stage points in the first one. He needs to respond in the second. Bizarrely, he's the second running playoff driver, considering all the other problems that lots of the others are having. Hunter Trull's the last running driver, by the way, 26th and 10 laps down.
And that is a disastrous set of circumstances for Hunter Trull. We talked about his playoff situation heading off into this round. Wasn't looking that great, and gotta be looking a heck of a lot worse leaving tonight. He'll already essentially be in must-win territory as we head off into the next few rounds of the championship at Talladega. Next time out in Martinsville, the second to last round of this FNL season here in 2025. Already looking ahead to 2026. Have an awesome calendar to look to, and heard some good news in the FLC world, how we have 100 entries between Cup and Xfinity for next season. Absolutely awesome to hear about this community continuing to grow season after season and year after year. We jump back to the action, though, and jump back to this battle. It's the 88 of Michael Deach and the 4 of Blake Kluot, 2 non-playoff racers who were running up at the front a little bit earlier on. Kluot dropped down as a result of a stage break. The 88 of Deach, meanwhile, still looking to hang on after that fuel only stopped last time around.
Yeah, it's of course going to always lose out in that situation with those older tyres. I've just got to hang on for the moment, but there's limited tyre sets in this race, don't forget. You've got to be very, very wary about using them all. 5 tyre sets, I think it is 5 tyre sets for the whole race, not 5 changes. So 5 tyre sets for the race, meaning you've got to do about 40 laps on each. Well, they did just about over that in the first part, but you can't dive in for them. Even if there was a caution now, I think it'd be way too early to reach for another set of tyres. It's good to limit them just so it doesn't get completely ridiculous. Otherwise, pretty much everybody will come in every time, and that's not fun to see. You want to see this properly thought out And you'd imagine the next tyre stop for everybody will be on or after lap 90 when the second stage caution is out.
So once we get that second stage break, it'll be another reset for these competitors. We'll have to see who's going to be able to be in the best spot there, who's going to be in a good spot, who's going to be in a bad spot. Only time will tell. Here we go. This is actually 4 playoff competitors, all covered by just about nothing. Adam Benefiel in front of the battling with the Eric Wineland and Kirk Mills. That's for P8 currently, and Lucas Hoytsma, the rear gunner in all of this as well. Still looking to see what Lucas Hoytsma can do in these playoffs. Won at Talladega earlier on in this season, and did cross the start-finish line in first at Bristol way back in the spring. However, because the penalties actually gave the win at the end of it all to Bryson Hixenbaugh, who slotted down in P15. Want to see what Hoytsma can do in this final round of the playoffs before the championship, for whether or not he can maybe make a run at that championship at the end of it all. We'll note, though, Brendan Hastings, your 1-point race leader, really starting to fall back himself. Tommy Gossett is your current race leader, and now Hastings looking to hold on to P2 with Joseph McWhorter on the inside of him, downtown into 3 and 4. McWhorter going to get that move done.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's over, though. Hastings still absolutely there, and I think that is Hastings making it clear, not really wanting to pass you at the moment, so just get on with it, don't worry about me. And I'll just sit here behind for the moment because there's still just over 20 laps to go until the end of the stage. If they're serious about catching Tommy Gossett and maybe battling for the stage win late on here, they can't afford to battle themselves. This is probably the biggest lead we've seen tonight for Gossett out front, and it's going to take some catching.
Oh, as soon as we have a slight break in the action, these competitors are always going to chase each other's tail and probably end up with one of them getting very flirtatious with the bright yellow Pennzoil barriers around this track here, as that was the case with the 48 and the 56 as they were side by side all through 3 and 4. Looks like they have finally single filed out in that battle for the final 2 spots inside the top 5. Adam Benefiel, though, gonna be right around them. Got to move on from Bryce Reiner not too long ago. Benefiel looking to be on the charge at the current moment, as he is going to be side by side trying to get P5 from Noah Woods. And I think he'll be able to get done as they head their way down to 1.
Yeah, and at the moment he's doing a good job picking them off. Is Benefiel not getting sort of embedded in traffic, which seems to be Bryson Hixenbaugh's problem of all people at the moment. It's a very, very bizarre situation to find himself in. We do not see this very often. He wasn't one of those drivers to stay out under that stage, so he's not he's not got old tyres on or anything. He's just embedded at the back of the pack, and this is exceptionally unusual. Maybe normal service will be resumed in a moment. He'll start to pick them off as he gets towards the end of this stage and looks for points again, but this is a bit unusual.
Yeah, we were expecting this race to be a source of calmness, a source of rather smooth racing. It has been an unusual night up to this point, frankly. We have seen some standout runs. We've seen some standout moments. We've already seen a driver nearly flip on the start-finish straight away. We're expecting this race to be tame, and who knows, maybe compared to Talladega and Martinsville coming up, it will be the tamest race, but certainly hasn't been a quiet lounge in a library on a very calm fall evening. It's been hectic, it's been chaotic, and these racers still have so much racing left to go that they can't even say that the drama is necessarily behind them. Who knows? Maybe the storm is yet to fully hit these competitors as we look at this battling. It's Bryce Reiner trying to withstand a challenge from Lucas Hoytsma on the high side, as Hoytsma was going side by side with Wineland not too long ago either. Eric Wineland in that number 87 car. Gonna be an interesting case to follow in this round of the playoffs. Didn't have to worry about stress too much in the round at 12 as he punched his ticket on early with a win in the playoff opener at Bristol. Now, however, he's gonna have to have a bit more stress in his veins.
There's no Woods been in the wall. Seems to be dropping back quite quickly at the moment. Kirk Mills is going to get past him. Raymond Root will as well, and will very rapidly be out of the top 10 here, will Noah Woods, which is pretty unfortunate for him. See if we can see what happens from this view here. As we have 97 closed. Oh, big loose moment, and he did find the wall off of 2.
That is a big curb whack for him. A big wall whack for him. I've done too many damn road course races. Big wall whack for him as he headed his way through there. He's going to have to dust himself off and try and find any way to break his way back up into the top 10. Now, though, we got the 48 and the 83. That's Benefiel and White. This is the battle for the final podium spot. Benefiel still on the charge, but that's not going to help out his case. Chasing each other's tail up the track as they head their way through 1 and 2. Benefiel finally get that move done to jump his way up into the podium spot, but it was not easy in that move on Matt White, and he has a bit of a cushion to try and run between himself and Joseph McWhorter.
Yeah, and there was a bit of contact in this battle a couple of moments ago. Nearly a second lost, actually, compared to where they were previously. Joseph McWhorter still in second and running rather well. He's certainly hoping this stage goes all the way green to the end, but not too pleasant in this group at the moment. McWhorter, Benefiel and Benefiel, White and Hastings, I should say. It's allowing Lucas Heutzmer to catch up and make his first appearance for a long time. I'm not entirely sure. Of course, it was Dave Heutzmer who was a long way down earlier and is now out of the race. Lucas Heutzmer hasn't had such trouble, but he didn't pick up many stage points in the first, so looking for a few more here by closing into this top 5 battle.
Get farther along in this race, and hearing as well that Adam Benefiel must have had some beef with somebody and maybe rubbed some other people the wrong way, as he just got muted in the chat. So I believe it was the other moment with himself and Matt White, which we will not leave our 2 cents on. We're here to talk about the racing. We're not here to issue out penalties. I used to do that before, but I was able to cry myself to sleep a lot less often after getting berated by racers. So let's see. This may have been the bit of drama that we're talking about between the 40 and the 83. As you can see, the side-by-side racing all through 3 and 4. The calm before the storm, before they really started to get aggressive.
It's into 1. I'm pretty sure, anyway. No, it isn't. So we'll there
Jackson,
we go.
Yeah.
But if White is shouting at Benefiel, what is he shouting at him for? Oh, Benefiel shouting at White, sorry, that does make sense. I mean, in any case, it's just a racing deal, isn't it? I mean, White couldn't hold the bottom quite, it got a bit tight through the middle and went up into the side of Benefiel. It's hardly, it's hardly worth shouting about, but there you go.
And, here the moment for a playoff racer looking to try and capitalize on a good run of speed. I can see why Adam Benefiel would be upset with that, but again, Matt White's car, he's running that alternate strategy, I believe, and his tire's probably not feeling too good as it stands presently. So, yeah, it's mixed. As I said a few moments ago, I used to do race control, and then I realized that I enjoyed being able to talk about racing without running the risk of getting cursed at by a driver. So I'm gonna leave that in race control's hands. Adam Benefiel still running in P3, and he's going to be challenging Joseph McWhorter for a P2 spot not too long from now. As we look at a battle involving Kirk Mills, Bryce Reiner, and Raymond Root. This is a battle for P8, 9, and 10, respectively, with Bryson Ixenball looking to break his way back up into the top 10. If there's any playoff racer that can afford to maybe not get some playoff points, it is Bryson Ixenball, but again, he wants to turn over a new leaf here in this round.
Yeah, and wants to take points off everybody else as well, I'm sure, so he'll be disappointed at the moment. Hunter Trawl, by the way, officially out of the race now, so only 6 playoff drivers in this race left. Trawl is going to have a lot of work to do, and so is Charles Velasquez Jr. at Talladega and Martinsville. It's possibly the worst scenario possible for Hunter Trawl, because he at least started the race. Benefiel, meantime, gets past McWhorter, who is still hanging on really nicely with these older tyres compared to the rest around him.
Yeah, so Adam Benefiel, even with that slide, he still has the pace. McWhorter still running strong, but nobody can really contend with Tommy Gossett in that number 74 car, as he is just driven off into the sunset, quite literally speaking, time-wise. But Gossett running very, very strong in that number 74 car. Took that race lead, and really ever since then, he hasn't looked back, as we're only a handful of laps away, actually a little bit more than one handful, about 2 handfuls of laps away from the end of this second stage. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, certainly does. and we're almost flying towards the halfway stage already here tonight of this race. 201 laps for some reason. I don't know if you know why this is such an odd number of laps, because it's not doesn't particularly correlate to a nice race distance or anything. So no, but that's what it is. 201 laps tonight, and we're almost at the halfway of that.
You know, I cannot say that I am privy to the information about why it is 201 laps. There's one bit of trivia about this track that I do know. I think we'll reveal that at a less hectic moment, as we got that side-by-side racing with the 48 and the 73. Once again, the 48 drifting wide. It's really, really tense between these two in this battle. 4P3 McWhorter now starting to drop back with those older tires. He's going to have to worry about losing out a spot to Lucas Hoytma, who's really turned up the wick as we've gone to the end of the stage. He's going to be running right behind, getting a good view of that fighting as they head their way down to 3 and 4. They'll still be side by side through the turn and coming out of it. And will Hoytsman maybe think about sticking a 3 wide, go for it down the inside into a 1? He's certainly considering it. He thinks better of it, though. Just going to allow these two to go side by side. Wait for that to happen. The 48 drifts up into the side of the 73, and cutting down on that steering wheel will be the number 97 of Hoytsma. He's going to try and take that 2-for-1 deal, and I think he's going to use that coupon to full effect as he jumps his way up into the final podium spot.
Oh, an almost road racing style. White goes for the switchback inside out of 4, and now he's going to just have his nose in front by the line. And of course, you won't want to be on the outside of him at 1 and 2 again, because both of these two will have seen now, and Benefield experienced it earlier. He's not very good through the middle of 1 and 2. Is Matt White? He's really tight through there, and that is putting him up the racetrack into the car he's alongside. Hoytsma then goes for another cutback. This is proper road racing, isn't it? Las Vegas. He's coming down the inside again for 3rd, and surely we'll have the place this time round, although White looks pretty comfortable actually on the high side.
Yeah, I think more people not very happy about the side-by-side racing with the 48. I think Hoytsma got to be happy about being on the inside of that 48 car. The 48's usually been the one drifting up. The 97 keeping it tight and tidy down on the inside. The 48, meanwhile, going to try and keep him a little bit crowded there onto the inside line. Still playing a little bit of cat and mouse between these competitors, as down into the turn is going to go the number 73 of Hoytsma. Thought about making it 3 wide. He was briefly 3 wide. No! They spin. Contact being made as they head their way into the tri-oval. That's going to be a huge amount of drama. Hopefully everybody can avoid it. No, they don't. That's the 91. And a big bit of contact coming in to the turn. That's Edward Sherrod Jr. piling into that incident as well. It brings out the yellow that will end this second stage, and I can't necessarily say that I'm too surprised.
That is a big shame. You could say it was coming, but I mean, they were getting away with it. While it was, you know, a little bit of contact here and there, they were getting away with it. Unfortunately, though, it's ended in tears, and McWhorter is going to lose a lot of points out of this after gaining so many in stage 1. I've got to say, that is White coming across McWhorter, isn't it? As he's so focused in front on trying to get back in front of Hoytsma that he just comes straight down into the 73 there.
Yeah, we're going to have to take a look at another angle of that to kind of get a good idea as to what this deal was. Hearing as well that the visibility as they headed their way out of the turn was really just like non-existent, as we'll probably get a good perspective from Raymond Root and all this. He was the first driver that really arrived at the scene of that accident. Look at the glare heading through there, and look at the smoke. It's a white cloud. Nothing that I could have done. Tried to turn it down, and side-to-side contact with himself on the 73. That is a huge amount of damage done to McWhorter's car.
First of all, by the way, the addiction to have these races in real life run at this time of day is stupid, and that's why. But anyway, that's real life. It's noon ET. It's, you know, it's the smoke, isn't it, for me? That I mean, I'm not driving, obviously, but it's the smoke that seeming to me that makes it more difficult. Edward Sherrod Jr. just not getting slowed down in time. You know, you could say, why don't these guys hit the brakes? But I mean, they take quite a long time to stop from 200 miles an hour. Even if you're on the brakes, you're not going to get there in time. And he didn't really have anywhere to go.
And hearing as well that Edward Scherer Jr. picked up a meatball flag as a result of that incident. Gee, I wonder why. That car looks like it's ready for the scrap heap of the number 10. He's had to come down pit lane. Pretty much everybody else has. The stage has now officially come to a conclusion. Tommy Gossett was your stage winner, and he's also going to be the driver leading him out of the pits. The number 97 of Hoytsma exits out in P2. Adam Benefield slotted in third. I will apologize for that slightly snarky remark. Hopefully that was a little bit funny. He's like, oh, gee, I wonder why. That looked like I got a headache just looking at that collision, personally.
Yeah, it was not a nice way to end stage 2, that's for sure. And therefore didn't actually get to see why it's or what the stage positions were. So I was just distracted by the race information. I was looking through Wikipedia as well. The race got an extra lap of only a few years ago to 302 miles. I still couldn't find out why, but yeah, it's a bit like the New Hampshire race that is 301 races laps as well.
And, I did promise this a little bit earlier on in the show, and I will bring it up as well. So this is a good little bit of trivia in relation to this track of all tracks, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and the first ever. I think it was the first ever IndyCar race here. I'm not sure if it was the first ever race, period, at Las Vegas, but it was the first IndyCar race back in 1996. I mean, for context, the Oval was built back in the 90s, but this facility has been around for quite some time. Even back in the 70s, it was a sad little bean-shaped road course that was just about a mile long, called the Las Vegas Speedrome way back in the day. But the first ever IndyCar race here back in 1996, nobody saw the full broadcast for that until very recently. It was lost for the ages for quite some time. Nobody really knew how hectic that race was going to be. Track was covered in sand, super windy. Nobody could really handle the track too well. Very heavy with cautions, and they had to switch the broadcast on the East Coast. Pretty much everything apart from the West Coast switched over to something else, and they didn't have the full broadcast for the longest time until this year when they finally released the full copy of that. But there you go, some lost media trivia here with Las Vegas Motor Speedway, as we're going to be able to bring you all the action coming to the end of this race. 110 laps left to go here in this 201 lap long race here at Las Vegas, and we're back to Greek flag racing, and yet again Tommy Gossett jumping out to a very comfortable lead as they head their way down into turn number 1 and 2.
Yeah, and it's been very fast right from the pole lap, which he got of course earlier on, right the way forward to the race as well. Been very strong and beating playoff drivers very regularly in these stage points stakes, as it were. And so we'll see whether he can race for the win with them as well. Hoytsma around the outside. He'll be the leader of the playoff drivers coming off of 4.
The first lap under green in this final stage. It's Gossett from Hoytsma, from Benefield, from Wineland, from Hastings, from Hicksonball, from Mills, who's now side by side with Hicksonball, Kluot, Woods, and Matthew Boston Wheeler round out your top 10 at the end of that first lap. But now we got to worry about that, battling Mills, trying to get some moves done at the start of this stage, as he's now jumping from Brendan Hastings. Kluot jumping in front of Hicksonball as well. We talked about this a little bit earlier on in the show, and I'll mention it once again. Despite the fact that Bryson Hicksonball enters this round of the playoffs with a 51-point cushion to that cutoff line, there's only so many times that he can use that cushion before it starts to disappear. Look at Kevin Harvick in 2020. A good points cushion is nice, but it's like a reserve parachute whenever you go skydiving. In an ideal world, you wouldn't have to use that cushion at all.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's very easy to, as I say, to lose those points so quickly. 51 points feels like a lot for now, but if you lose 20 or so, you're going to be a lot more nervous at Talladega going in with 30 points, knowing that you could get caught up in something next week. So that's why I mean I was talking about earlier on about the sort of desperation to do well at this circuit above all, because you don't want to be relying on something at Talladega, or indeed you want to have something just to sit on while you are at Talladega, just in case something goes wrong, because the likelihood of that happening is so high.
I mean, frankly, but I mean, as much as we talked about a little bit earlier on about putting your eggs in the Las Vegas basket could lead to this race being chaotic, which we have most certainly seen thus far, it's still a better strategy than putting all your eggs into the Talladega basket. Frankly, putting all your eggs into that basket would basically be like a lotto winner coming up to you and telling you to just sell all of your assets, buy nothing but lottery tickets. You'll eventually hit, and the formula will work for you. It's not the way it goes. You know, I think running at Talladega and thinking, okay, I need to go into this because I don't have any other way to make it into the playoffs. If you put all of your chips into the Talladega basket, to invoke a little bit gambling terminology since we are in Las Vegas this week, if you put all your chips into the Talladega column and you actually come out of it and it strikes black and you get that cash out and you make it into the championship four, you probably have a better chance of getting struck by lightning, frankly.
Yeah. You don't want to happen.
Yeah, that's not medically advisable. Always bet on red.
Look, yeah, that's also not medically or scientifically advisable. Statistically, that's wrong 50% of the time. But you know, it's anecdotal. Oh, less than 50. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, with the green ones. But anyway, it's a side point. We're in Vegas, so what do you expect? As I look down the inside from Clark, who was very quiet in the second stage, I've got to say. He's now back in the top 10 again, and Noah Woods leading the charge of the non-playoff drivers. Now 4 of them back in the top 5 again after they were absent from the top 5 in that second stage.
Yeah, I think the gambling terminology, I cannot add too much to it because I do not gamble. My grandmother, on the other hand, God, she actually had a medical alert bracelet. I believe I am technically. I mean, I think yeah, it's 21 to gamble. It's 21 to gamble in the U.S. So I'm still about like a month and a half away, 2.5 months away. Yeah, time flies when you don't know what day it is. But I was gonna say, gambling in my family. Holy cow! My grandmother. I'm not saying that she was a bad gambler, but she had a medical alert bracelet before she passed that said, "In case of emergency, split the kings."
Nice. I don't really. Yeah, I suspected, by the way, that you were still a couple of months away, but I forgot that you're actually not very much younger than me. So yeah, even I'd be allowed to do these things in America now because you're behind us in the UK as far as these things you're allowed to do when you're 21. We're just allowed at 18 because we're more sensible.
See, I was gonna say at least I can own a gun, but I don't think anyone would sell one to me. And I appreciate that comment from Howie on the small little graphics there from the production truck. Oh, okay. I thought I was gonna continue on the joking there, but I thought I was just gonna see the 4 and the 69 car there. That was Blake Fluot and Curtin Mills come to blows as they had their way off through 3 and 4. Fluot has been a very good driver to keep tabs on ever since he joined this series at Watkins Glen all the way back in the summer. Ever since then, he's been a pretty standout driver. Hasn't been able to get a win since, but if he runs full-time in 2026, we may have to keep an eye on that number 4 car. He could be a very formidable contender.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is very much going to be the case in these final rounds. One last good run out here before the season's over. 4 rounds to do that for the non-playoff drivers, of course, and great to see that so many of them have indeed participated at the end of this season to try and get one of those late results. On the inside of Kirk Mills here, who's been consistently the last of the playoff drivers, though isn't at the moment. Bryson Hixenbow again dropping through the field in the early part of a run, which I'm still undecided whether that's strategy or he hasn't got the speed, which will be unusual.
That is rather interesting to see, even though this is a quintessential NASCAR track, frankly. I mean, it's an intermediate, and Las Vegas is definitely one that, I mean, we've already run here once before. We ran here back in the spring. So the fact that Bryson Hixenbow, despite the fact that he won this race in the spring, is running down in 9th, either he's got something up his sleeve, he's going to come in for rocket fuel and nitrous and the whole shebang-a-bang for the last pit stop, or he's got some issues in that number 63 car, just not really finding the pace in these playoffs and trying to utilize that cushion. Who knows? maybe come time for Phoenix, he's gonna break out the like NASCAR Cup 2014-esque levels of horsepower, come up with a 900 horsepower engine, and just drive away from everybody come time for that season finale at Phoenix. And of course, you'll be able to catch the rest of the action from this season, from both this series and the full-length Cup Challenge, exclusively here on Maconi Entertainment. If you are enjoying tonight's show, happy to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. Still have some good action all throughout this field. Let's jump to some action a little bit farther up the road. It's Lucas Hoytsma and Adam Benefiel battling for the final 2 podium spots.
Yeah, 2 playoff drivers again, one in a much better position than the other as far as the playoffs are concerned. Benefiel came in today 38 points above the cut line, Hoytsma 7 behind, which then doubled, at least the gap to McWhorter doubled after his stage win, but 73 so far down now and 17 laps down as it stands. He'll be gaining some of those back again and effectively racing Eric Wineland to be into that top 4 by the end of the day, because it looks like Benefiel is going to be with Hixenbaugh, but who are the other 2 going to be? It's not going to be Trull or Velasquez Jr., but which of the others will it be? That's the big question here, and some of that's going to be settled in these battles up towards the front at the moment, although still quite a long way to go. These 93 laps could get ticked off very quickly.
Yeah, the 93 laps could go just drive past us in the blink of an eye. We'll have to see. I will say, though, talking about the way the rest of this race may go, we look at the first 2 stages, and bearing in mind it is a bit of a small sample size, considering we're just barely past the halfway mark of this race, and we're rather short of it when we got the end of the second stage. So a bit of a small sort of sample size to mention, but it is still worth bringing up. In both of the first stages, we saw incidents bring out yellows. So I would be a little bit gobsmacked, if I'm being completely honest, if we get through this final stage fully smooth and clean. But, you know, I am not a betting man. If I was a betting man, which I can't be at the moment, I probably would not have a house. I probably wouldn't even have socks for that matter. So we'll just have to see how the final 92 make that 91 laps of this race go. Tommy Gossett is still your race leader, currently 1.5 seconds in front of these 2 who continue to duke it out. However, you look a little bit farther behind. This isn't the only battle in the top 5 for that matter, as Eric Wineland and Blake Kluot have their own little squabble. Wineland, after a win, his first and thus far only win, came in the playoff opener at Bristol to fire his way into the round of 8 and looking to have a good night. But Blake Kluot trying to be a bit of a thorn in the side. I said this a little bit earlier on, I'll say it once again, these non-playoff racers being a bit of a thorn in the sides of these playoff contenders.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you want, I think, as a neutral from these non-playoff drivers. I personally don't like to see from these non-playoff drivers the sort of backing away and sort of not wanting to fight playoff drivers. You know, I don't want to get involved or whatever. I'd like to see them just run their race as they would have normally, and I think that's exactly what Blake Kluot is doing at the moment. And often we've seen throughout this season Kluot run very well and run towards the front, and you know, would have been an outside shot probably if you were to look at the playoffs from the start, or indeed look at the season sort of midway through and think, yeah, probably has a decent chance of getting to this stage of the competition, but sadly didn't. You know, is now just racing for pride and racing for race wins at the end of the season. I like to see them getting in amongst it with the playoff drivers, and Kluot not scared to do that, not scared to pass Wineland there for 4th.
Yeah, not afraid to dice and scrape and claw for any single spot that he can, and you love to see it. You do love to see it here in this series. The non-playoff racers, as much as they are being a bit of a thorn in the sides of the playoff contenders, from our perspective here in the broadcast booth, we're not having to worry about our own playoff points. We just have to worry about the drivers who are worrying about their own playoff points. And it's just fun to see that little, it's not an interclass dynamic because they're all running in the exact same race with the exact same cars, and we don't have classes here in this series. However, it does create a little bit of a intriguing dynamic in the sense of 2 different kind of drivers with 2 different agendas running strong together in a race, and looking to try and scrape and claw for any single spot that they can get.
Yeah, certainly are. Goes around the outside for who is that? Noah Wood, sorry, on Eric Wineland here, down the back straight, and Wineland's starting to slip and slide a little bit now. Top 5 is going to be lost here as Noah Woods goes right round the outside. clearly recovered from smacking the wall off of 2 not that long ago. Not much damage done, or indeed it has been repaired, and now raced back to the top 5 again.
Yeah, no Woods, I gotta say, has put in an excellent drive here tonight. Holds on to P5. We saw him involved in a little bit of chaos a little bit earlier on, but you know, he's been able to dust himself off quite well. Holds on to a good spot. No Woods, a driver who has really fallen into some pretty poor luck thus far this season. Looking to try and have a good run here tonight as he holds on to a top 5 spot with 85 laps left to go. So that's the 48 diving out of the way down into turn at number 1. That was Matt White pretty much just allowing. That was the number 73. Actually, should be noted with that drama a little bit earlier on. The 73 of McWhorter has some fresher tires. He's laps down, mind you, so it's not necessarily a battle for position, although I thought it was for a very brief moment. But no, McWhorter, after that drama a bit early on, he is well farther back, looking to try and get himself back up into contention. I'll have to see here in a few moments' time. He's 17 laps down, so this won't be a matter of lucky dog position if you can get past your current race leader, Tommy Gossett. This is just being that speeding bullet through the field to say, hey, look, I've still got a good race car. I can still make it into the championship 4.
That's what it's all about at this stage. It's such a fight at this stage to get into the last championship 4. So difficult to make it there, especially when 2 of those positions are effectively closed off from the beginning. With Hixenbow and Benefield, makes it even more difficult and even more important and exciting that likes of Hoytsma, Wineland and Kirk Mills are all still in the race and running up towards the front at the moment. Trull already out here tonight in 71. Velasquez Jr. didn't start. And McWhorter 17 laps down after that big crash through the tribal at the end of stage 2. A long way to come back for him, Joseph McWhorter, after winning stage 1. I'd be very pleased with that, but you want to make sure he's got more than 10 points on the board after today. He will be below the cut line after this, and you just want to avoid that more than anything here at Vegas. You want to have a good load of points to sit on heading into Talladega and Martinsville, which are so unpredictable.
And you know, on the subject of the playoff racers and who's having a good night, who's having a bad one, I want to give a shout out where I feel like is most certainly due to Eric Wineland, even though he just dropped down behind Bryson Hixenboll. Perfect time for me to give him some praise. But this is a good drive from Wineland. We said this a bit earlier on in reference to him. He punched his ticket into the round of 8 with a win in the playoff opener at Bristol all the way back on September the 12th. So it took him a little while to get that win this season, break through into victory lane, but in the process of all that, he gave himself a good leg up in the playoffs and gave himself the opportunity to maybe contend for a championship here in 2025. And based off the drama that's going around him with many a racer running into difficulties, I think it's been a rather well-composed drive from Eric Wineland up to this point. Not necessarily being the most flashy and outrageous driver out there on the circuits, but doing everything that he needed to do to jump his way up into a playoff spot. He was the first driver out of the playoffs entering this race for below that cutoff line, and doing himself quite a decent amount of favors with this run thus far.
Yeah, this is a long ongoing battle at the moment. Noah Woods has been involved in a few of those tonight, but Hixenbow is coming back again. So strange of a yo-yo day for Bryson Hixenbow, such a strange day, but he's coming back again, and he's going to be at the top 5 as they go over the line there, over that time round, 79 to go. But the longer these runs go on, the faster Hixenbow gets, and same to a degree with Adam Benefield, although Benefield's 2 seconds ahead of Hixenbow at the moment, and of course Gossett is being slightly caught for the race lead by Benefield, gap less than a second for the first time in a while.
Yeah, that's the first time that Tommy Gossett's been feeling some pressure for a race lead here in this race, pretty much since the bicentennial. It has been a while since Tommy Gossett has had a driver really around him, but Adam Benefield looking to go for back-to-back wins. Will be the first time that he did that. In fact, with his first 2 wins this season, way back in the spring, it was at Martinsville and Darlington that he was able to get the job done to score his first and second wins. I haven't really seen too many racers get back-to-back wins. It was Bryson Hixenbow, actually the 2 races prior to that, Las Vegas and Miami, where he got back-to-back wins, and Adam Benefield was able to do it shortly thereafter. Outside of that, though, and Bryson Ixenball doing it once again at Nashville Auto Club, we haven't seen a driver go for back-to-back wins in quite some time. In fact, looking at the results that we have had as of recent, it's been rather topsy-turvy in terms of the drivers that have gone into victory lane really ever since the start of the summer. I will hold off on that point as we've got ourselves a titanic battle for P6. It's Noah Woods and Matt White that are duking it out. White on that inside line, still running that dangerous game, drifting up the track more and more and trying to spook Noah Woods into diving out.
I think Warner might have just found the wall there as he was trying to get a run on both of them, so he stays 8th, but White just cannot hold the low line. I mean, now enters middle, and Woods goes even higher just to say, have all that space, would you, because this is getting difficult to avoid you at the moment, and he now chucks back into line. It's a little bit of a good defensive technique, actually, for White, but obviously it can't persist, because if he keeps running into the side of people like that, A, people are going to get annoyed, and B, he's going to spin around at some point, or spin somebody else around. So it's going to have to stop at some point, but at the moment he just cannot hold that white line for the life of him. Really tight racing car, it looks like, through 1 and 2 especially.
See, it's just minor indiscretions, frankly, from the number 48 of Matt White. Every single time he drifts up a little bit, whether it's intentional that some people may believe or unintentional, it's still getting the same effect. It's not necessarily just driving somebody to right hook you, but it's slowly but surely gonna get somebody to really be upset with you. It's basically the racing equivalent of death by 1,000 cuts, but it's not necessarily like a matter of the cuts really killing it. It's the cuts to the other competitors that you're around that's eventually going to get you killed. It's not like you went up to somebody and punched them in the face. You basically just prodded at them with a fork until they punched you.
Yeah. Your analogy is something else sometimes.
See, that's my... background in Philadelphia Public Schools for you.
As a result of that crash off of... Well, not crash, but he did hit the wall off of turn 4, and Brandon Hastings got through pretty easily. He's now over a second off of White and Woods, who are, still 6th and 7th, but Vineland is going further and further away from them at the moment, which is not ideal at all. So very interesting indeed as White now gets on the back of Hickson. Well, this could be very interesting.
Yeah, this could be quite intriguing, as would this basically be what happens when unstoppable force meets an immovable object? I mean, Bryson Ixenball should be noted, the wonderful graphics that we show at the start of these shows, talking about the race winner from the previous round. I believe Bryson Ixenball is the one that does that for this series, which is quite funny when you realize that he's had to do that for the wins that he has gone 7 times thus far this season. But Bryson Ixenball, if this goes a little bit awry, Matt White may not be on speaking terms with a top person here in this series, which would not be ideal. In the world of racing, there's a couple of rules that you need to follow. iRacing, a little bit unique because, of course, in real life and iRacing, the same rule remains the same. Don't crash into your teammates. In iRacing, though, you have to run the risk of trying not to crash into the series admins.
Yeah, that's always a good idea, isn't it, to stay away from the admins, at least stay away from crashing into them, because you'll find yourself in trouble even quicker than normal for that on a normal day. But a good general rule anyway, to be honest, to avoid hitting people. But there we go. I think that was Wineland just in front, by the way, getting past Hastings with 70 to go. So maybe there isn't damage there, or at least it's not that bad, because he wouldn't have made that repass, you wouldn't have thought, if he had proper damage.
And interesting to see the amount of drivers that have run into some difficulties here tonight. It hasn't been a scot-free race for everybody. It's not going to be for Ixenball. He's going to go off into the wall. Contact with himself in the 48. He clips another car. That right there was Hastings going to take a vicious hit into the wall. It brings out the yellow with 69 laps left to go. And once again, Matt White strikes again, and I think he has decided to call it a night.
Has he decided to, or has he just qualified? We'll have a look. It's the same thing again, though. Just way too tight through 1 and 2. He hits Hixenbaugh on the rear, then the front. He goes headfirst into the wall. And Hastings unsighted, couldn't avoid him quite. Hixenbaugh's going to have damage with this. The long-time series leader could be going to Talladega with a lot more, or a lot less of his fingernails than he was hoping for.
I think you're exactly right there, Ewan. He has a big cushion heading off into this race, but I mean, let's face it, in the stages, hasn't really been able to get the points in the past few races in the playoffs in the round of 12. Wasn't able to get the points either. That 51-point gap here in the round of 8 can go in the blink of an eye, as that right there was Brandon Hastings getting clobbered there. Nothing that he could have done trying to avoid that drama, and it's another moment for the 48 of Matt White. You know, I gotta say, and this is honest, I'm not saying that's intentional or anything of the sorts. If you see the same driver trying to hit the bottom of the track so often throughout a race and just not able to do it, you gotta wonder whether or not it's a conscious decision after a certain point in time. Now, I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that could be a thought that could potentially pop across at least a couple of people's minds. And hey, if he felt completely innocent and all that, he probably wouldn't have hit the Alt F4 button as quickly as he had. Meanwhile, though, we have had some racers come down pit lane. I say some, just about everybody up at the front has made that decision to come down pit lane. Tommy Gossett, your race leader on this yellow, is going to lead them in and lead them out. And you can see the shuffling going on right behind Lucas Hoytsma jumping up to second.
Nice stop for Hoytsma up to second. All four tyres taken by everybody, by the way, but there's going to be some long stops down the back. This will leave everybody with just their 5th set of tyres remaining. So in the last 67 laps, it's just a case of when do you take those and when is the best time, and how much gain do you get out of them, and what is the best point in the race to get the most gain out of those towards the finish of this race. We'll wait and see on that, I suppose. But I don't know if I'd go as far as to say, you know, it might be intentional that he's running up into them like that. I just think, I do agree that, you know, it's not really acceptable to have it happen again and again and again. I think for me, it's a case of you've got to realise that your car, either your car is not, or you are not capable of holding that lower line. You've got to accept that either slow down or stop running that line, because you're running straight into people. As you said, that's at least the 3rd driver we've seen him run straight into. Unfortunately, has exited the race now, but you just can't continue to do that again and again and again. It's just insane to do the same thing again so many times and have the same result. And unfortunately, has taken out a big championship contender now.
I think the way that I could sum it up is just essentially, I mean, the true definition of insanity is doing the same thing multiple times in a row and expecting a different outcome. Now, I'm not saying anything, but it was. I'm just going to. I'm going to leave it be. I will leave it be. And as we see this field trundle around the racetrack, we've got ourselves a bit of a bright spot to talk about. Many bright spots, in fact. The lights are officially on here at Las Vegas. The sun is still baked in that western glow of the U.S. The sun dipping below that horizon slowly but surely. We may be high up in elevation, at least compared to some other parts of the country, but still a little bit flat in that horizon. So that sun going to be out for quite some time as it still continues to dip down. The light's going to go brighter and brighter as we get closer and closer to the end of this race. Still more than a stage length, basically a stage length and a half left to go from this race. 66 laps left, gonna be 65 when we get this restart here about now. Gonna be Tommy Gossett and Lucas Hoytsma leading us back to green for the first restart because of incident here in the final stage. And for the first time, really, we don't have to worry about that outside line and really stacking up too much. But once again, Tommy Gossett able to jump out to a comfortable lead on that inside.
You're right to point out this is the first race restart that everybody's on the same H tyres for, because everybody on the lead lap came in there. Still 15 of them. Even Hastings a lap down now. Hixenbaugh multiple down as his pit stop continues. This is why McWhorter and some of the others staying out, because you can gain laps, gain points by just staying in the race. But at the end of the first lap of this restart, Tommy Gossett still leads. Not talked about him too much because he's been leading by such a long way for so long. But as that green flag run went on and went over 40 laps, Benefield did start to really close, and we were only a few laps away from a battle for the race lead before that caution came out.
Now that this race is starting to settle into a bit of a groove once again, these competitors going to try and get these spots, strike while the iron is hot. Insert phrase here. Gossett and Hoytsma gonna maybe start to battle for the race lead. Hoytsma saying in a quick time there at a 30, but now that's gonna be improved on by Raymond Root, who improves to go a little bit quicker, about a 10th of a second quicker. In fact, with Lucas Hoytsma a little bit quicker than Tommy Gossett last time by. He's trying to set in the quick times at the right time, peaking at the right time, and getting these spots done, get the moves done, get the overtakes to work, and then you can worry about the rest of this race. One driver trying to make a move stick right now is a 56 of No Woods. He gets a move done on the 87 of Wineland down into 1.
Yeah, Wineland going backwards on this restart, which is a bit of a shame for him, and No Woods improving his position, almost getting touched there out of 2. It was Woods with Wineland so close behind. He didn't get into the back of him because they're so on edge through there, as we've seen multiple times tonight, that just a little bit of a touch there could very much send you around. But Woods seems to have that car set up very well on the short run. Now he closes on Kluat just as quickly.
Continue to see this field run around this racetrack. I'm looking to see any sort of battles that we've got going on throughout this field a little bit farther behind. Jeremy Clapper Newell just spotted him in the corner of my eye. He's running down in lucky number P13 as it stands currently, as himself and Daniel Llewellyn to worry about. As a little bit farther in front of him, you can see it's the 81 of Hastings, and he's currently side by side with Hastings, the driver involved in the yellow that we just saw. He's one lap down, slide down in P16, so that's not really affecting it too much. The only thing that's really changing is the fact that Jeremy Clapper Newell feeling some pressure from Daniel Llewellyn and Matthew Boston Wheeler. Should be noted, Wheeler a little bit farther back, so it's really just Llewellyn that he's feeling the pressure from currently. We jump back to the battling a little bit closer up to the front, though. These are the final 2 races inside the top 5, as Blake Kluat fittingly in P4 in that number 4 car, and No Woods in P5 in the P56 car.
Yeah, and then Wineland just sat there watching on, probably doing the sensible thing at the moment, seeing what happens in front before he decides to do anything major. Heading down the inside, Woods on the way into 3 and 4. Looks like he is going to get into 4th place, and 4 is going to lose that position. Wineland's going to get the run as well. This is what he's been waiting for. He's now going to sweep to the low side, try and follow Noah Woods through as well.
Gets that spot, and now will Eric Wineland try and follow in suit to pounce on that car of Kluat as he's trying to get his bearing straight. Contact being made, it looked, as they headed their way off through turn number 2 onto the backstretch. So close to contact as they headed their way through there. Again, a good whiff of the back bumper of that number 4 machine. Will Wineland get this move done? Does Wineland really want to pounce? I mean, we think about the playoff racers who have been struck by falling anvils up to this point tonight. Only 4 of them running out there on the racetrack currently, at least anywhere close to the lead lap. It's Woodsman, Benefield in P2 and P3, Wineland in 6th, and then Kirk Mills slotted down in P10. At this point, Eric Wineland can do himself a decent amount of favors by just picking off the spots when he can and walking away from this race with the top 10.
Yeah. At the moment becoming, I don't say easier and easier to achieve, but only half of the drivers now on the lead lap, and so a decent proportion of those are going to end up with a top 10, and just getting to the end of today in that 10 is going to be a very, very impressive job from anybody who can get there. So Mason Lowry and Alex Prince, I think, are in for the first time here, as some more drivers drop back there with that previous caution. And start to see some others get themselves towards the front. Hixenbutt, by the way, outside the top 15 now, still in the pit lane. He can drop to a lowest of 21st, it looks like, at the moment.
That is going to sting. That many of these playoff racers are going to be feeling a slight sting. Now, whether it's just a small little bee sting, whether it's going to feel like they just had a limb chopped off, who knows? We'll get a good picture of that come time for the next round of the championship at Talladega in 1 week's time. And of course, you'll be able to tune into that action here on Maconi Entertainment next Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's about 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And God knows what hour in the morning for you in the UK, and I mean, I'm outnumbered in terms of the British people here in the booth, because Howie in the production truck is from the UK, and you're from the UK as well. So what disturbing hour of the morning is it for y'all?
3 o'clock in the morning at the moment. Well, that's normal
Dear
for me now.
God.
So.
That's actually, I'm not sure what's worse about that. The fact that it's 3 o'clock in the morning. If I stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning, I would be hearing more voices than I already. I think for the.
Sorry, that caught me off guard. I shouldn't laugh out loud like that, but that caught me off guard. It's quite funny.
We appreciate Howie's honesty in the production truck.
That was good.
Always on point with the cameras and the jokes.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, most people are imagining that that's really difficult to do, because I have some sort of normal everyday job in the day, but this is my job. So staying up late is part of it. So it's not as bad as you think.
See, I thought it was bad the one time that I think I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning on the iRacing Spot 24 show. We were working on that show together. I think I remember. That was when I sung the U.S. national anthem with as many voice cracks as I could. I'm pretty sure my vocal cords have never recovered. I had a whole bag of cough drops a day after that, funnily enough.
I was so tired I didn't really care what was happening, to be honest. I was just having woken up. You were still obviously on the other end of it. It's quite early in the morning for me, quite late for you, and I don't remember much else about that, but I do remember that part of the broadcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, how could you forget? How could you forget, indeed, the time that your eardrums basically got turned into a veneer inside of your own head? We've got some side-by-side racing going on involving Eric Weiland and the 4 car of, that's not the 4 car right there on the inside of him, that's the 5 car of Bryce Reiner. We got the 4, we got the 5, the 3, 2, 1, 0. Imagine racing with the number -1. That'd be a little bit demoralizing. Bryce Reiner holds on to P7 currently. Eric Wineland still putting on a good drive, trying to hold on to any spot that he can. Frankly, it's not a do or die race for Wineland. He's got to come out of this race. I wouldn't necessarily say smelled like a bed of roses. We could probably say he's going to come out of this race smelling like a can of Febreze. He's still going to be in a bit of a peck of trouble if he runs into some trouble at Talladega or Martinsville, but compared to some other people in the playoff picture, I think he'll be doing a heck of a lot better than those drivers.
We've seen so much playoff drama tonight, and Hicksonville has indeed dropped now to 20th place. I said 21st lowest you can drop to, of course, forgetting that Matt White is out, at least I think, although he has appeared back in, as far as showing his amount of laps down, maybe he's still gone. And he'll be out of the race, but Hicksonville down to 20th is the lowest he can drop now, I think, and he might well decide that that's that for tonight, and knowing that he's going to be quite a few points closer to that cut line than he would have wanted to be. It'd probably be less than 40 points, but still probably just over 30. He cannot afford a big crash at Talladega, though. That's the key here, and there's sometimes not a lot you can do about that.
Yeah, frankly, Talladega and the drama that goes along there, that is an inevitability more than anything else. And as was just raised from Howie in the production truck, really mentioning the fact that Bryson's, I mean, we just haven't really seen him get out of first gear in the playoffs. It's similar to the run of fortune, or lack thereof, the run of misfortune that Martin Truex Jr. had back in 2023. Entered the playoffs as a reigning, as the regular season champion, and then as soon as the playoffs hit, it just there's no other sound to describe it other than it was just a run for him back then. And right now for Bryson Exenball, it's been a bad run in the playoffs, really. I mean, I was here for all but one race from this season ever since we joined up here and covered this series here on Maconi Entertainment ever since the Bristol race back in April. And it was at Bristol, the Bristol Fall race for that matter. But really, Bryson Exenball, in terms of the runs that he's had thus far in the playoffs, hasn't really seen too much. The last time he scored a win was at Indy, and that was mainly down to fuel. Ever since then, I can't necessarily say that Bryson Exenball has been the top racer in this series. I would struggle to put him in the top 5, frankly.
I think he's had solid races. It's obviously when you go from winning a lot to not winning, but sort of having decent results, it doesn't quite look as good. So maybe there's a bit of that going on. But it's certainly true that in the playoffs he's found it difficult, and I quite like the way that these playoffs are sort of figured out, because it's Hixon having a bad playoffs hit is not completely nuking his season right at the end after having a great start, as it may do in some playoff formats that effectively sets it all to zero. That some do, and it really makes things very, very difficult. This allows the regular season to actually have some effect, but I think it's what we could do to see more of actually in seasons that have playoffs, which I'm not against, by the way. I just want to see it done correctly, and I think having the regular season having such a bearing is a good thing. And at the moment, it's absolutely saving Hixon Brothers, no doubt about that. To start the round of 8 with over 50 points above the cut line is a big help, but of course he's absolutely earned that in the season.
Oh, he really did earn that. I mean, 7 wins. We're not going to discredit the season that Bryson Exenball has had up to this point. But the comparisons between the playoff run that he's had and Kevin Harvick back in 2020, when he would have locked up the championship with about 3 races left to go, he ended up missing the championship 4 in that season back in 2020. I distinctly remember that Martinsville race that fall, and what an interesting event that was. Hixenball looking not to have a repeat of that. I think he has one main goal in mind at the moment, and that is just to make it into the championship 4, try and pull off a little bit of damage limitation, and hope that there aren't any falling anvils that come down on his head, either at Talladega or at Martinsville. I'm treading the return to Martinsville. Let it rip. So this is a shared bit of broadcasting trauma that myself and our producer Howie have. It was the FLCC at Martinsville way back in the spring. I think we had 26 cautions in that race and 22 before the halfway mark. That was a 400-mile, 400-lap-long race. That was both Howie and I's first time covering the FLCC, and I believe that was down to the fact that there was a slight emergency with the usual producer, our fantastic colleague here at Maconi Entertainment, Mr. DJ Lyon, and Howie came in last moment. I was a replacement for a driver currently running in P12, Mr. Kirk Mills, and I remember. I wouldn't necessarily say I was disassociating throughout that race, but the voices were certainly getting louder in my head.
I've heard a lot about that Martinsville race. I must say, from talking to you both. So yeah, I'm quite looking forward to going there in a couple of weeks. But it sounds like you're both not, which is a bit of a shame. But there you go.
What we could do.
What can you do? It's I always enjoy racing at Martinsville, but I do understand why it can be a little bit difficult to watch sometimes.
I absolutely adore Martinsville. I have many good Martinsville memories. I think the first Martinsville race I ever watched was the 2015 fall race, which if you do not remember that, I would assume you're probably a Joey Logano fan. If you're a Matt Kenseth fan, I'm sure you probably remember that. And if you're anybody except a Logano fan, I'm sure you probably remember that race as well. That was the first ever Martinsville race that I ever watched, and what a way to get started. I remember watching the 2017 fall race when that whole deal went on with Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin right towards the very end of that. That was basically the first strike against NASCAR fans not really liking old Dennis Hamlin in that 11 car. And I remember coming back from a car show right after I'd gone out of the karts for my final full-time season. We went to a car show with it back a couple of years ago, came back for the final 50 laps of the Martinsville race that fall, and saw the finish where Ross Chastain wall-rided, heading around the final turn. So always love Martinsville, always puts on some good racing. Expecting that to be the case for the penultimate round of the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series in a couple of weeks' time. For now, though, instead of worrying about the finish of the season, I'm going to worry about the finish of this race here. And 36 laps left to go, and these two are just about as close as they ever have been.
Yeah, they are. Hoytsma is getting faster as they go along, and Tommy Gossett doesn't seem to enjoy these really long green flag runs. Seems to be okay for the first 30 laps or so, but we're at that 30 lap mark now, and he's getting slower as we go along and getting overtaken. There goes Huxenberg, by the way, unlapping himself, so he'll be 24 laps down now, just hoping that someone pulls off in front of him so he can maybe gain an extra point and try and salvage something here. But he is 20th at the moment, is Hixenberg. Here comes Hoytsma though. He's got an opportunity to try and follow Hixenberg through, not on the same grip tyres wise, but he could well try and follow through and get up into the lead here, with Tommy Gossett forced to defend.
Yeah, so Gossett now having to run around the racetrack, figure out how he can block off the run from the number 97 of Hoytsma. This is a unique challenge for Tommy Gossett to find himself in currently, but overall, we got to commend the drive that Tommy Gossett has put on thus far. After starting the race from the pit lane, he's been able to make his way up to the front, grab that race lead. As we look back, Noah Woods, the first driver to come down pit lane here in this final stage. Will that be a trend-setting call to come down pit lane? Only time will tell. For now, though, I think these two that we've got on screen right now have some other worries on their hands. At least one of them does. Tommy Gossett gonna break away and make that call to come down pit lane. Careful on the pit entry here, though. Trying to drop the anchors to make sure that he doesn't speed. I think Gossett got away with one as he's now down pit lane.
Goodness me, that's a surprise, I must admit. I thought they'd try and stay out for quite a long time here, try and catch a caution so that they didn't have to make a green flag pit stop here today, but they are trying to split this final part of the race in half. We went green with about 66 to go, so this will be exactly in half, but I just wonder whether it's not necessarily the fact we're at halfway, but the fact that Hoytsma has caught up to him. He doesn't want to see that himself get passed. He wants to get that undercut and try and get out in front of Hoytsma, who is staying out at least an extra 2 laps.
And looking at the stint length for many of these racers, it's pretty much either one end of the spectrum or the other, unless you've been involved in an incident. In the case of Bryson Exball, who's currently 10 laps into his stint, I mean, he just had to beat off the fenders of that car and probably bring in a new one from Charlotte, just have that airdropped into Las Vegas. Everybody else, though, either in the mid-30s for how long their stint has been, or have just now put some tires on their car. In the case of Gossett, Woods, and Matthew Boston Wheeler, who came into the pits there as well. Now we got to see who's the next to come down pit lane, who will be the next to dive down, as we take a look at a little bit side-by-side pace comparison between your race leader of Lucas Hoytsma, your P13 runner, your former race leader of Tommy Gossett, looking pretty darn good in the first sector. How's he looking in the second sector here? And that will be as they
32.
come across the line. It is going to be pretty darn quicker indeed.
There you go. 1.5 seconds over a lap, 1.6 even. So, yeah, only 2 sectors on this racetrack, of course, but a lot faster through them both. And that's no surprise with Gossett. But the problem is not now. It's, you know, whether whether there comes a caution here. He's only just got past Wineland here, so he's still got 5 seconds to catch before he can unlap himself and get back on the lead lap. And second of all, he's on his last set of tyres, so no chance to come in for a late caution. Third of all, he'll be on the oldest tyres of everybody when everybody else pits, because he came in so early.
Yeah, so it is a bit of a double-edged sword here to make that early call to come down pit lane. You're going to be able to enjoy the tires a little bit longer, but come time for the end, you're going to be in for a little bit of trouble. So let's see who's going to be able to make it work. Will we have a clean run to the end? That can really shuffle things up. If we have a yellow at the end, that could really just turn this race on its side, as if it already hasn't been turned on its side enough thus far. Hoytsma, though, and Gossett, they seem to be the two that are going to be contending for the race win. Adam Benefield, though, has been able to put in some good lap times in P2, keeping Hoytsma within arm's reach, about a second separate those two racers up in the front. Hoytsma really stalling out with pace. Gossett, meanwhile, starting to reel him in at a rate of knots. Won't be too long now before Gossett can finally jump the berm, and Hoytsma going to be in a bit of trouble.
There he goes down the inside again, another one from Gossett. But look at the time gained already starting to tail off here. I know it's still 1.3, but if you look at the amount of laps that will be remaining, even if it's 25, 20 laps to go, if Hoytsma's gaining, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths a lap every time 420 laps, then that can be a multiple seconds as well. Gossard's got to remember that his only time game is coming right now. It's only going to be for a few laps. It's to the end of 6 of gaining, but that's only given him what's maybe 9 seconds, just less than 9 seconds. We'll see what the equation is for the others as they make their final stops. As there he goes past 97, he's on to the lead lap again. That part of the equation has been solved.
Lucas Hoytsma, we talked about the double-edged sword from Tommy Gossett's situation. There's a double-edged sword for Hoytsma as well. He's staying out longer and longer, and granted he'll have much fresher tires come time for the end of this race, so peaking at the right time, and who knows, we have a green-white checkered and may come back to Hoytsma, but you gotta have at least some time to enjoy the fresh tires. It's basically like hopping in the shower right before you go to sleep. You're not going to enjoy that sense of feeling completely fully clean because you're going to be in bed by the time you do.
Christ. These analogies never end. But anyway, there you go. Benefield, Wineland, Princeton and Phillips, by the way, all in the pit lane last time round. So it is starting to happen. And yeah, Hoytsma is starting to leave it all out on his own. 7.5 seconds his gap. Now he's coming in though.
Okay, so this is a very interesting turn of events. So I'm looking through. Just saw the message from Howie in the production truck. It's a message from Dirt's Game Cafe talking about Adam Benefield using an Atari joystick. I believe I recognize that name. I believe I do. That's Lucas Hoytsma making the call to come down pit lane. Renaissance going to make a nice little crack there. Hoytsma going to come out of the pits. Will he be able to hold on to the race lead? Survey says he will most certainly not. But he can hold on to a clean race car. That could have been treacherous as he came back onto the racetrack with Blake Pluot and Adam Benefield coming up at a rate of knots and very lucky to avoid contact. Just gonna say, I think I recognize that name, Dirt's Game Cafe. Pretty sure he's worked with an old pal of mine, Mr. Randall McGrew, on another broadcast on another network that I cannot name. Very, very small world after all. But anyways,
it is a small world. Hoytsma may have just given himself a bit too much to do here. But it's 12 seconds in 24 laps. Means he's got to gain half a second a lap. He's gained 4/10 through the first sector though. So the maths is lining up at the moment. What about this time? The problem is he's going to have to pass people. That's going to cost him time as he goes over line 15.2. We'll get the view. There it is. So yeah, 7.5 tenths that time round. If he does that for 23 laps, he will get 18 seconds of a gain. He's way less than 18 seconds off the lead at the moment. And by the way, the lead's still being held by Kirk Mills, who's yet to come into the pit lane yet. But he's banking on the late caution here.
Banking on a quick run to the end of this race, use up that tire advantage towards the end, and who knows, it could be a very good strategy if you are in the camp of Lucas Hoytsma looking to return to victory lane for the first time since Talladega way back in the spring. If you can make it work, it would be a master stroke. If not, still not going to be the end of the world, frankly, if you're Lucas Hoytsma. I mean, a win would be good, considering that Talladega and Martinsville, as I said earlier on, trying to put your chips into that basket is basically like selling off all your assets and spending the rest of the money on lotto tickets. Hoytsma, he needs a win to be very comfortable in the final 2 weeks of this round of the playoffs. But frankly, it's not going to be a do or die for him either, considering the point situation, the points drama that's going on for the other racers in that playoff bubble. It's not going to be game, set, match for Hoytsma if he doesn't get the W here. Even if if he gets a win, it would be fantastic. If not, he'll be fine.
I think, as just mentioned earlier on, Hicksonville and Benefield are almost guaranteed in straight away. If we presume that those 2 places are the top 4 are taken away, although it's dangerous to presume that after the night that Hicksonville's had, but let's just assume that that is happening. You've sort of got 2 more places for the other 6, of course. McWhorter down the field, he's out the race now. Hunter Trull out the race now with that crash earlier on. Oh, McWhorter's not out, of course, but he's a long way down. Trull out the race. Velasquez Jr. didn't start, so that's 3 of them. Effectively, you've got 3 left fighting over the other 2 places. And Kirk Mills, Lucas Hoytsma, Eric Weiland are all still up there, but Mills is going to drop a long, long way back. with this strategy unless he catches a caution, in which case he'll win the race. So it's a very big double-sided thing there, and you know, Hoytsma and Wineland will therefore gain points, but there's still 2 more rounds to go. I think that, though, is the way that things are going to stand, and therefore Hoytsma can say it's been a pretty decent day.
Yeah, it's been very productive from Lucas Hoytsma, and it is still not over. Slowly but surely, he is reeling in your race leader of Tommy Gossett. That gap is now about 8 seconds between your P1 and P4 runner. You'll have to worry about the traffic, though, as you got Noah Woods right in front of him. If he gets held up a little bit, that will cause it to balloon out a bit. And right as I say that, gets held up the team inside a bit, hang down the back straightaway. Not going to hurt him out too much. 10-lap tire advantage from Hoytsma compared to Woods. That's going to help him out a great deal. He gets that move done. Really, no questions asked. Adam Benefield, though, should be noted, the driver of the number 83 car, really going tit for tat with Hoytsma here as well. As much as he may potentially, be running that Atari joystick as his main method of control. That joystick has got some magic to it, as he is still keeping Hoytsma honest.
Yeah, I think not sure who that guy is in YouTube chat, but clearly Adam Benefield's biggest fan at the moment. It looks like trying to support him best he can, and it looks like Benefield actually might lead the points in the round of 8 actually at the end of this, because of Hicksonborough all the way down. In fact, I'm pretty sure that he will do, as long as things stay as they are. Hoytsma, though, continues to close in on Gossett, and this is he's starting to become ahead of schedule now. He should be 6.5 seconds behind with 13 laps to go, but there's still a couple of extra laps, and to be fair, he does need extra laps because he's got to factor in time for passing, not just catching. But at this rate, he will get there.
Yeah, he's got the advantage. He's got the tire advantage. He's got the time advantage too. Gossett, he is going to be looking in his rear view mirrors more often than not as we get closer and closer to the end of this race. Kirk Mills, another playoff racer. He's putting in a good drive currently. I wonder if he will be able to make it to the end. 53 laps into this stint for Kirk. Holy cow. That's a very long run to the end. Kirk probably going to have to come in for a quick little late splash and dash at the end. But if he can make it through to the fall of the checkered flag, that'll be a very productive day for Kirk as well. Already set to be, as he'll be one of only a few playoff racers to finish this race even anywhere close to the lead lap. So as much as we have, understandably so, focus a lot of playoff attention on the likes of Lucas Hoytsma, Adam Benefield, and Eric Wineland, Kirk, who entered these playoffs slotted down in P8, 11 back, will be able to take a solid bite out of that cutoff gap.
Yeah, Mills loses another place to Blake Cluett, who's not actually that far behind these guys at the moment. He's a bit longer into his stint than Hoytsma and Benefield, so he's going to struggle to stay with them at the moment. But Mills might as well carry on with this and just try and see what he can get. If he can catch a caution, as I say, if he can catch a caution, he'll win the race. but